I got you. Okay, today we're going to work with the psoas a whole bunch, and I know that pretty sure all of you know about the iliopsoas, but just in case, um, we're going to do a little bit of an anatomy lesson here. Okay, can everybody see? Oops, hold on. I'm going to get Maggie's message out of. Oh, how do I do that? Okay. Okay, can everybody see my screen? It's up there? All right. So this is your iliopsoas right in through here. So orienting, this is your sacrum. This is your lumbar spine. You have 5 lumbar vertebrae. So here's the first. And here's your diaphragm. Okay, this beautiful dome. And here, starting way up here, is your iliopsoas. It comes all the way down to the inner rim of the hip bone and attaches. Let's see if we can flip this guy around, and you can see the attachment of the psoas right here. So it's kind of on the inner rim of the femur bone. So it's a very interesting muscle. I could talk for an hour about the psoas. This right here is your psoas minor. Do you see that little skinny strip? Not everybody has a psoas minor. So we don't have, oh, now how do I get that away? And then here is the psoas major. So look at what a big fat muscle it is. And then this is your iliacus, and the two combine together to form the iliopsoas right down through here and attach together. So the iliacus is right on the inner rim of your hip, and the psoas attaches onto your vertebrae, crosses over the hip joint, and attaches onto the femur bone. So the psoas traverses a lot of joints in the body, multiple vertebral joints, so, in front of your SI joint, and then it crosses in front of your hip joint. So it's a huge stabilizer for the body. It's very deep, obviously. It's right up against the spine. You can see how thick it is if I, kind of show it from the side. This muscle right here is your quadratus lumborum, your deepest low back muscle. And the two lie literally just, they're fascially connected to each other. So many cool things about the psoas. If you look up here, you can see that its fascial or its tendons, its attachments, are very much interwoven with the attachments of the crura of the diaphragm. So, it attaches from T12, and there's many attachments along the discs and the vertebrae themselves, all the way down to L4, sometimes even L5. So it's a very strong, beautiful, huge muscle that has a lot of fascial connections to a lot of other muscles, your low back muscles, your diaphragm, as well as, other muscles in your pelvis too. So its primary responsibility is hip flexion. So it will make your femur bone lift up, like bringing your knee up toward your chest. So that's what its main function is in action, but it also is an action of stabilization. So it stabilizes your spine when you're sitting, when you're standing, when you're walking, when you're doing all sorts of movements. It's one of the prime core stabilizing muscles, and it's very deep. So it's your deepest lever of the body to support itself. So because it's so close to the diaphragm, we have a lot of awareness of this muscle, in the sense, or not awareness, but it reacts a lot in response to what the diaphragm is doing. So if you're in a sympathetic state or a parasympathetic state, if you're resting and digesting, or if you're running and fleeing, this psoas muscle will absolutely 100% be part of the equation of your nervous system reaction to things. So it often can get tight, and it can get bound a little bit. And the other thing that can happen is we can have one side tight and the other side loose, one side strong, the other side weak. We can have a little discrepancy from left and right. So that's a challenge with this muscle at times as well. And the last thing that I'll say about it is that it's often a very unconscious mover in our body. We, because it's very deep in our body, and because we use it all the time, we have to bring it into awareness of our consciousness. So we're going to do that today. Okay, so can you see me now? Are we back to normal? Okay, all right, great. So hopefully you have a washcloth and a squishy MR ball, and we're going to sit up straight and tall. So however you're sitting, I'm sitting cross-legged on a bolster, but however you are sitting, can you make sure that your knees and your hips are in line with each other height-wise, or your knees are lower? So get up higher on something if you feel like your knees are, here, I'll move back so you can see me. If you feel like your knees are up here, try to get on more support so that your knees are lower down. Okay, so once you have the support that you need, close your eyes and just drop your awareness into your body. Start to feel that you're aligned, that your crown is over your tail. Often we tend to lean our head forward, so be conscious of your ears over your shoulders over your ribs over your hips. And when you have that alignment, pay attention. Does your pelvis feel balanced left and right? Are you putting even weight on your two sit bones? Do you have a sense of being in the center of your pelvis and not tipping forward or rolling back? And you have a sense of openness and spaciousness through your spine. Relax your face. Relax your skull. Let's take a few slow, deep breaths in and out. Letting your belly release on your in-breath. Slight contraction on your out-breath. Feel that belly expand in all directions as you inhale, and then the chest expands in all directions as you inhale. And as you exhale, everything lets go. You might notice if you have tension in your hips, the front of your hips, this might be your psoas. A lot of times when we sit, this muscle, of course, is engaged, but we can get kind of snugged up tight in there at times. So just pay attention to how the front of your pelvis feels. See if you can melt, allow your knees to sink down, your femur bones to sink down. All right, place your hands together at your heart. Bow in, creating an intention. Let's release your hands. All right, so come on down onto your mat. We're going to do our usual little warm up, and then we're going to do some muscle release work first before doing some active things. So have your towel and your ball available. Let's go ahead and lie down on our back. Okay, and stretch out your body. You can reach your arms overhead when you get there on your back. And just enjoy that sense of freedom in your body. So much space, right? Feel all your space. Reach into your right side, reach into your left side. Just enjoy that length, stretching into some length in your body. And then bring your knees into your chest and rock a little bit, swaying side to side. And just feel the ease in your sacrum. Feel the compression of your knees toward your chest and the flexion passively of your psoas muscles, because we're holding on to our knees so we don't have to work a lot. All right, and then hold the knees. Let's circle the knees, keep the knees together, circle them one direction. And then circle them a couple, 3 times the other direction. And then open the knees and bring them back in, and open them and bring them back in. Just feeling into what's available in your hip joints. So remember, the psoas muscles cross right over your hip joints. So every time you're moving your femur around in your hip joint, your psoas is a part of this equation. Okay. So let's go ahead and release the left leg, right knee into the chest. Give a good squeeze. Let's roll around in the ankles, wiggle your toes. Breathing well. Melt your skull. Try to find softness somewhere. And then switch left knee in. Stretch your right leg. So you're flexing your psoas on your left side and lengthening your psoas on the right. So start to move your mind's eye into the deep core so you can feel. Remember, those muscles are long, all the way from your T12 vertebrae all the way down to your femur bone. That's a big long stretch of, big span for a muscle to take. Okay, let's open up to a star. Stretch out your body, reaching, reaching, reaching. And then draw the knees into the chest, pick up the head, snug little ball. Again, opening big and wide. Exhale. Drawing your knees in and up. All right, relax your head down one more time, feeling into the range of motion in your hip joints, moving your knees away from each other and back in. Okay, cross your right thigh over your left thigh. Shift your hips over to the right, and we're going to drop the knees. Oops, sorry, wrong way. Switch your knees over to your hips over to the left. Right thighs over left thigh, and drop your knees over to the right. You can twist either way. Both feel great. But for kind of waking up that iliacus a little bit, this is a little bit better way. So I have a block underneath my knees because, I haven't done this pose in a little while. I did this practice yesterday. So it's not fresh like in the last hour in my body. So warming up slowly. And then come back, put your feet down onto the ground. Now we're going to cross the left thigh over the right thigh. Shift your hips over to the right. Knees drop over to the left. Feel free to stretch your right arm up and away. You can turn your head to the right. Just feeling into, there's a lot of muscles in your low back, your side waist, and the inner rim of your hip that can open in this posture. So feel into all those places. Breathe into all those places. Support your knee if you need. And then come back to center. Bring your knees on into your chest. Pick up your head. Relax your head down. Keep your knees in. Rock a little bit. Swaying left and right. Grab onto your feet. A little bit of a happy baby pose. Just let your back open up. You can rock a little bit if it feels nice. And then stretch open to a star. Spread your limbs, wiggle your fingers and your toes. Exhale, knees into your chest. Come rolling over onto your side. Okay. All right, let's find some cat-cows. So as you find your way to all fours, try to have your weight evenly across all 4 points of contact on the ground. Notice your wrists, try to keep them in good place so you're not overbearing weight into one spot. Start moving through your cat-cows. Such a beautiful posture, definitely an everyday kind of posture. Keeping your spine mobile and free. Now as you pay attention to the vertebrae, see if you can sense all those deep muscles in your low back, in the front of your spine. Feel the diaphragm, feel the breath. And then just do what you want. You can wag your tail, you can roll around in your ribs, you can move in your hips, whatever feels nice. Remember, you have a head, that you can move as well. Keeping on all fours, stretch your left leg straight back behind you to curl your toes under. Cross that foot over to the other side and turn and look out at that foot. So we're opening up the side of the body. Breathing, letting the quadratus lumborum, remember that muscle, is so close to the psoas. Let's breathe there. And then come back and place that knee on the ground. Second side, bring your foot back, curl your toes under, and then cross that leg over the other and turn and look at that foot. Okay, find your breath. Chest is facing the ground, ribs are facing the ground, pelvis square to the ground. Breathe into the side waist, breathe into the low back. And then come back to center. Stretch back to child's pose. Take your hips back toward the heels, walk the hands forward, inch, inch. Relax your skull. Breathing deep. Come back up onto all fours. Inhale, lift your right arm up in the air. Exhale and slide that shoulder down. Feel into the twist. Let your body enjoy the mobility. Gaze toward the ground. Let your head melt toward the ground. Inhale, reach that arm back up. Hand down onto the ground. Okay, other side. Reaching the arm up. Slide the arm underneath. Let the head be neutral and relaxed. Feel the breath. Not just the rib cage, but the breath moving into the rib cage. The breath moving into the belly. All right, reach that arm back up in the air. Hand comes down, dog pose. Reach up through your spine. So we're pedaling our feet if we want to in the beginning here. Just get used to being on hands and feet. Take your time, enjoy the sensations of your body. Feel into the movement of your breath. And then let's walk our feet forward and come into Uttanasana. Relax your head, let it melt. You can always have blocks to put underneath your hands if you want. You can hold your legs, you can grab onto your elbows and dangle, whatever feels good. A halfway lift, lengthen through your spine. Your legs go straight now, so press them out, lengthen spine, melt, and fold. Rising all the way up, arms coming upward. Lean back if it feels nice, cactus open arms, feel the back body engage, and then relax your hands down. Big breath, the arms coming up again. Exhale, folding forward, relax your skull. A halfway lift, melt again. Step your left foot back, right foot forward, come to a lunge. Open up through your spine, and then let's begin to bend and straighten the front knee so we feel the hamstrings and the hip flexors. The psoas is one of those hip flexors, opening up. So remember, the psoas is on the front of the spine, so it's deep in our core, below our organs. Let's go ahead and place the back knee on the ground. So this is a great way to stretch your psoas muscle. You can have the hands on the floor or climbing up higher, which can open the psoas even more. So you can put your hands on blocks at any height you want. And lengthen the spine. Reach your crown and tail away from each other and just notice what you're feeling. There's other muscles stretching as well, but this is a very good stretch for your psoas muscle. Descend the tail, lift the pubic bone just a little bit. Relax that now. Lift your knee back up off the ground. Hands down onto the ground, dog pose. Now notice the difference between the front of your hip on your left and right side, having stretched open your psoas on one side and not yet on the other side. Pay attention to what's alive in that left leg that's not yet alive in the right leg. Okay, let's switch sides. So now we're going to bring our left foot forward. The right leg is back. Okay. Coming into a lunge, feeling that extension, starting to open up the psoas here. Let's move. So we're bending and straightening the front knee. We can feel into the sense of movement, giving us some freedom in both the front and back of our legs. All right, come bring your back knee down onto the ground. Right knee's down. Hands can come on blocks. So you can even put your hand on your thigh. The higher up you go, the more likely you have a chance of kind of compressing in the lumbar spine. So be very mindful that we're not sinking and compressing. Open up that hip flexor group, which the psoas is the head of the party. There's other hip flexors too. You have one of your quadricep muscles is a hip flexor. You have a smaller muscle called your pectineus, that's a hip flexor. Even your TFL, the tiny muscle on the side of your hip that your IT band is the tendon for, even that muscle can support hip flexion. But the psoas is the prime mover. All right, let's go ahead and relax. Come back to dog pose, hands on the ground, extend, open, lengthen, and breathe here. All right, come forward into a plank. Lower yourself down to the ground. Shoulder roll if you like that. And then lift to a cobra. Melt and fold. Okay, take your hands out in front of you and lengthen through your body. So lifting up a little bit, feeling the support of your wide arms, stretch your legs, try to let your legs lengthen away from your torso. And see if you can feel into your belly. Breathe well, feel those psoas muscles start to open. And then melt and relax. Come up onto all fours, move your spine about to release the back bend. And then we're going to grab our smushy ball. Okay, so we're going to do a few different movements in this. First, we're going to start with the lower fibers of the psoas, and then we're going to move up a little bit to the upper fibers. So we're going to, the position of this is we're going to put the smushy ball kind of like right here in the inner groin. Our knee's going to be out to the side like this. So this is going to be me on the ground like this, ball here. And you can inflate or deflate as much as you want. So I'm going to lie down. You can also do this on a bolster. Let me show you a couple of different things. You can do this on a bolster so that if the floor is too much pressure, this is a great way of doing the posture. I'm going to put this in my groin at the bottom edge of the bolster, right in that little nook. Okay, so you can do this lying down on a bolster if you want, or you can do this lying down on the floor. I don't know how many of you have an actual bolster, so I'm not going to cue it from that. Okay. All right, so you can start by, we're going to use this into our right leg first. So see if you can kind of roll onto your left side, bend your knee, and stick that mushy ball into the groin space. Okay, and you might want to just, adjust it here or there. We're going to find our breath. Now, the roll towel can come in handy if you are on wood floors. It can be a little bit trying for your inner knee, so you can stick a blanket or, a washcloth or a little towel under there for the support. You may not need it. All right, now, my head can be on my hands. You can also put a block under your skull, under your forehead if that's more comfortable, whatever feels good. And then just, kind of maneuver around until you feel like you're really getting the ball, the weight of the ball to come into that tendon, the lower portion of the iliopsoas complex. So remember that anatomy where the psoas kind of joined with the iliacus to go low and attach onto your femur bone. Once you're in a comfortable position, just breathe. If the ball is too inflated, deflate it a little bit. If the ball is too deflated, inflate it a little bit. So take your time to kind of, if you've never done this before, you might need a little maneuvering. So we'll just be like this for a few breaths, and then we're going to do some movement. But for right now, we're just breathing into the psoas. So there's nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. If your low back tends to get tender in this position, being up on a bolster is very helpful. So you can adjust a little bit. You can have something underneath your torso and belly so your back is not, it'll decompress your back a little bit. Try to melt everywhere. There's no need for you to grip your glutes. There's no need for you to resist. See if you can melt and let go, and just breathe deep into the psoas. All right, now we're going to just do the slightest bit of movement. Now, like I said, I've done this with a plastic bag under my knee, so that it slides a little bit better. I'm on my mat on a rug right now, which is fine for me. But the best way really is to be on a wood floor. If your knee is on a washcloth on a wood floor, it slides really well. Okay, so we're just going to do a very simple movement of this bent knee. And oh, I forgot to say, you can adjust how high up your knee is and how low down your knee is away from your shoulder. So just find the place that with that bent knee that feels good. And we're going to slide the whole femur bone out to the side, away from the torso, and then bring it back in toward the pelvis. So away from the pelvis and back in. Make sure you're breathing. Try to get a sense that the rest of your body can deeply relax. All right, now release your leg back again. We're going to roll onto your right side. Bend your knees a little bit, at least the top leg. The bottom leg can straighten if you want. And we're going to stick the ball now kind of right here on the inner rim of your hip bone. We're going to start with the iliacus. You're going to start kind of on your side, stick the ball in there, and then you're going to roll toward the ball to whatever level is comfortable. I have my bottom leg straight and my top leg bent so that my knee is in a nice comfortable position. My back is soft. So again, maneuver the ball so it's kind of on the inner rim of your hip, the top of your pelvis, right in there a little bit, okay? And you can roll it or roll your body so that you're more on the ball, whatever you can tolerate, whatever pressure you can tolerate on the psoas. If you can look at me, remember the psoas attaches from your sternum, or not from your sternum, from your thoracic vertebrae all the way down to either femur bone, deep in your body. So that's what we're trying to get, is that long stretch of the psoas and also the iliacus, that muscle that's on the inner rim of the hip. Once you find a reasonable amount of comfort, maybe you need a pillow under your head or something. So just find what you need and breathe. Your top leg, bend your knee so you can be in a nice neutral position with your pelvis, with your back. Breathing well. Now, if we had all day, I would have you strip up the entire psoas all the way to, kind of up where the upper fibers are. But in the interest of time, we're going to come away from that after another couple of breaths. And remember, you can always return to this. So anytime you want to do some psoas exploration, you can do this. There's no, you don't have to rush through it like we have to in class so we can get to some other stuff. All right, so now we're gonna move to the second side. We're gonna take so I'll stand up to show you the position. Your knee's gonna be out, your knee can be higher up, your knee can be lower down. So find the place on the ground for your leg to be, and the ball is gonna be right in your groin. Okay, so right in this spot. All right. So again, deflate, inflate the ball to your comfort, be on the bolster, put a wash towel under your knee, whatever it is that you need, but we want that ball to be kind of in the groin nook. Okay. Again, support your head in any way that feels good. Once you get into a comfortable position, identify, is my knee really in the best place? Should I move it up a little bit, down a little bit? Try to find what feels good. And then the goal here is to just totally surrender into that ball, to let the body weight down onto the ball. It's like a reverse massage. Our gravity is helping to move the weight into our psoas instead of having something forced down into your psoas. You get to control the weight. You might find that one side feels very different from the other. And you might find that through practicing this here and there, you might have different spots, different positions that feel a little bit better. So you'll find your way. The first time you don't always find it the first time. If you need that washcloth underneath your knee, take it. And now we're going to do that sliding motion. So our femur bone is going to move away from the pelvis and then toward the pelvis. Now, it's not a huge movement, obviously, but you should this is kind of just massaging those lower fibers of the psoas. And notice, how does this side feel different from the other side? Let's release that. And straighten out that leg. We're going to roll onto our left side. Bottom leg is straighter. Top leg, your right leg is bent. We're going to stick the ball into the inner rim of our hip. And you can start kind of on your side with the ball snug up against you and then roll toward it. So you get the place that really is a good spot for you. So you can control the pressure by rolling more toward your belly or more toward your side. And that will determine how much weight is coming down onto the iliacus and the psoas muscle. So once you're here, breathe. Breathing deeply and fully. Now, it probably is worth saying, this is not the type of thing that you put a foam roller in. This is not the type of thing that you stick a tennis ball. Well, you might be able to manage a tennis ball if you are very careful of the weight, but really the soft, smushy ball is by far and away the best tool to use for getting into here because, it's softer, your body can receive. These are soft tissues that you have to go through. Your intestines are right there. You have to move through other organs to get to the psoas. Breathe well. All right, and let's relax. Come out of there. Take the ball off to the side, hands on the ground, all fours. Breathe into your belly. Notice if your diaphragm feels released. If it's easier to let everything fall, your diaphragm, your belly muscles. All right, find your way up to stand. Okay. Now pay attention, you might be a little achy, a little sore where we did some self-massage, but just notice what's here. All right, let's come to the front of our mat. We'll start doing actual yoga now. Okay, so standing in Tadasana. Inhale, lift your arms up to the sky. Open up, exhale and fold. Bend your knees, let your hip flexors relax. A halfway lift, spine grows, hands can be on blocks or floor. Melt and fold. Back to dog pose. Extend through your spine. Take your feet a little wider than you might normally do and internally rotate your feet. This will release the psoas a little bit more. Feel your breath. Let's go ahead and bring our right foot forward. Left foot is back, finding a lunge. Blocks are good if you want them. Starting to open up that psoas on the back leg. Rise up, crescent lunge. Arms coming to the sky, open up. Breathe into the fullness of that stretch. Lengthen through see if you can imagine the fibers of the psoas from the thoracic spine, lumbar spine, all the way down. Relax your hands, back foot comes forward, fold and relax. A halfway lift. Melt again. Step the other foot back, left foot is forward, lunging. Rising up, bringing the arms to the sky or anywhere that serves. Feel that sense of space from the center of your spine down into your femur bone. Breathe well. All right, hands back down. Extend back to dog pose. Spacious in your spine. And then put your knees onto the ground and come to lie down on your back. Bend your knees, feet flat on the ground. All right, so put your hands where the smushy ball, the MR ball was a little while ago, so you can just feel, all the way from above your belly button and trace like a V down the sides of your belly to your hip bones, to your femur bones. Put your base of your hands, heel your hands into that hip crease and push away. All right, now we're going to get into some engagement of this muscle. So bring your knees up in the air. Find the breath. You can have your arms down at your sides, out to the sides, wherever is comfortable. All right, take your feet apart. So we're hip width apart now with our legs. We're like in a tabletop position, but the knees can be a little bit, reverse tabletop, but the knees can be a little closer to your chest if your back requires that. And we're going to start with our heels. So dropping your heel down, right leg down, and lifting it back up. And then the left heel, and lifting it back up. So this is the action of the psoas. Melt your head. Of course, your transverse abdominis will help support your core. But see if you can feel those levers, your hip flexors, and those deep levers in the body. And then put your feet down. Rest for a moment, put your hands back where you know your psoas muscles are. Breathe there. And return back to the tabletop. Arms go where you want them to be. Now we're going to do toes. So tapping your toes on the ground and lifting back up. Tapping your other toes onto the ground and lifting back up. Now see if you can really close your eyes and sense into the psoas doing this work. The concentric contraction is when your knee lifts towards your chest, and the eccentric contraction, the breaks, are when your toes descend toward the floor. So just feel the two different ways the psoas muscle engages concentrically and eccentrically in this movement pattern. Are you breathing? then relax and put your feet on the ground. You can windshield wiper your knees a little bit. Make sure your back's not taking too much of the burden of this posture. Okay, now bring your knees to your chest. We're going to straighten our arms. So scoop your arms around the bottom side of your knees. Arms are straight. So that's how far away your knees are to begin this. Keep your right hand scooped on the top of your tibia, right below your knee. And take your left hand on the top of your thigh, right above your knee. Now your knees are hip width apart. Our arms are straight. So that's how far away our knees are from our chest. Okay. And we're going to do oppositional action now. So push your knees into your hands. So our right knee is going to be pushing away from our chest, and our left knee is going to be pulling toward our chest, but our hands are blocking movement. We're not moving, we're just engaging. And see if you can feel the eccentric contraction on the right and the concentric contraction on the left. All right, and then relax. You can bring your knees closer in, change sides. Right hand is at the top of your femur bone, right above your knee, and the left hand scoops at the top of your tibia, right below your knee. Okay, so knees are hip width apart. Press your knees into your hands. Our right knee is trying to pull toward our chest. Our left knee is trying to pull away from our chest. Feel the psoas muscles engaged. Relax your head, breathing well. Okay, and then release. Stretch out to a star, lengthen and find space in your body. Exhale, knees into your chest, coming over onto your side. You can come right up to stand, or if you want to move through a dog pose, you can find dog pose first, and then find your way to stand up. You can do this with a block between your thighs if you want to. You don't have to have a block between your thighs. I recommend it if your knee is a little wonky. All right, so we're going to do chair pose with our feet hip width apart, with or without a block. When you squat, see if you can feel the lever contract, right? So that deep, if the psoas muscle does this, right, lifts our knee up toward our chest, this is the action of what we're doing in this posture. See if we can stabilize in an isometric contraction now. So nothing's actually moving once we get into position, but these two levers are like two hands that are holding our front pelvis. Put your arms anywhere you want. There's a lot going on in this pose, but see if you can feel the contraction of your psoas muscle. If you have a block, sometimes gentle hug of the block will kind of turn on a lot of pelvic floor and core muscles. So it's a nice way to feel into your psoas. You can even put your hands there if that helps you sense better. And then come up to stand. All right, so we're going to come into Parsvottanasana with our right leg forward. So shorter stance. Let's start with either the hands on our hips, or you can interlace the hands behind your back. You can even go into reverse prayer behind your back. We haven't done much to open your shoulders, so be where you're comfortable. And then lengthen up through your spine, press your feet into the ground, and we're going to start to tip forward. So as you come off vertical, like here's vertical. As you come off vertical, try not to arch the back, okay? We're going to keep neutral in the spine as you start to stretch forward. Now you might feel that this pose is very much about the back of your body, and of course, you're working with a lot of musculature in the back of your body, but can you feel that the psoas muscles are like two hands holding your torso up? Okay, root into the feet. See if you can allow that front leg glute to engage and reach down into the back heel. And feel as though as you tip forward, those psoas muscles are like a platter that's holding your torso up. Find the breath. And then reach back to a vertical stance. Back foot comes forward, front foot comes back. Find your breath. Maybe hands stay in the same position. Maybe you switch them somewhere. Start to lean forward. It does not matter how far you go. You can go much further, but try to sense that the psoas is putting the brakes on, so you're not totally falling, you're engaged and supported. Feel that you have two planks that are holding you up. Those are your floor joists when you lean forward here. With that front leg, root the wrap around the glutes, descend down through your glutes all the way to your back heel. So you're turning your glutes and your hamstring on. The psoas is supporting you. All right, and climb back up. Walk your back foot forward. Inhale, rise up. Take your legs wide apart. Truly, your psoas is involved. We could do this for hours and focus on our psoas the whole time because there's so much action of flexion in our body, about hip flexion. All right, as we come into Virabhadrasana 2, now this is different, right? We're no longer in the front plane of, just marching and having flexion happen in a neutral plane. We're now in abduction and external rotation, but we're still flexing the femur bone. So see if you can feel the psoas do some of that work. Slightly, just gently put your hand on your thigh and try to lift your thigh into your hand without, putting a pair of high heels on. So you don't want to lift your heel up off the ground. See if you can do this action from your psoas. Straighten your leg, turn your feet the opposite direction, come down into Virabhadrasana 2. Now there's a lot going on in your hip joint and your pelvis when you do abduction, external rotation, and flexion all at the same time. Let's focus on, once you get grounded and feel your feet, focus on the flexion. See if you can lift your thigh into your hand to get the feeling of waking up the engagement of the psoas in this position. Relax your shoulders. All right, come back. Find a squared footed pose, so legs are wide. Again, we're going to lean forward. We're not going to go all the way down just yet. Put your hands on your hips. Engage your psoas. Feel that you're flexing. Even though your knees are not bending, right? We're flexing at the pelvis. We're flexing at the hip joints. Can you feel as you slowly go down that your psoas is what's supporting you as you go down? Once you get to where you're going to be, wide legs, hand on ground, or hands on blocks. Big breaths here. Heel toe your feet in. Bend your knees. Climbing all the way back up. Last standing pose, then we're going to get on the ground. Stand on your right leg. We're going to lift the left knee. All right, so feel that the psoas is your prime mover when you're doing this. Arms can go anywhere you want arms to go. Have the top of your right thigh moving back, soften the knee. Now, while you're here, wherever you have the arms, we're going to open the leg out to the side. Come back. Feel that lever. Now turn your torso. Twisting, still feeling that the psoas is the lever of supporting your knee. Lift through your spine. Arms back out to the sides or up, face forward, knee out to the side. And then knee back in. Place your foot down onto the ground. Yield and ground. Second side, standing on your left leg, try not to lean it out, hug it in. Lift that right knee up. Spine is spacious and long. Put your arms where your balance is supported, where your breath is supported. Can you feel that you're not hiking the hip up from the side? You're hiking the hip up from these deep core muscles. Open up out to the side with your knee. Feel that lever holding your femur bone out there in the air. Back to center, twist the torso, turning to your right. Crown lifts, standing leg, thigh bone back. Again, out to the side with the knee, chest faces forward again. Feel that psoas. Bring your knee back to the center line. And then put your foot down onto the ground. Rising up, open up, exhale, folding forward. Last dog pose, extend in your body. And then let's find the ground. All right, we're gonna grab a block and you can put it on the low height, the middle height, or stack 2 blocks on top of each other. And this is going to stretch. Actually, if you don't mind, even if you want to go high, let's start with either the low or the middle, just so we can maneuver the block in a minute instead of 2 legs straight, because we're going to straighten our legs and that's a little too much for the psoas, or for the back, I should say. So breathe well. Melt your feet. All right, so block at the height you want. We're going to keep your left foot where it is and stretch your right leg. Heel comes down onto the ground. So if you're, if you're higher and you feel okay, then that's fine. I like to be lower on the low height of the block to do this. But if your back can support more, then you can go to the middle height or even 2 blocks if that's how you want to be. Breathe into the psoas, lengthen and open. Let your diaphragm help you to open your psoas. Try not to let your toes fall out to the side, toes straight up. And release that right foot, straighten your left foot. Toes pointing straight up. Feel the full length. When you contract your psoas, there's a slight external rotation of the femur bone. So if you point your toes straight up, it will just get that last little bit of good stretch in the psoas muscle. You can even try, slight internal rotation, but you don't want to mess with it too much. Okay, find your breath. Take 2 feet back down. Now we're going to try both at the same time. You can have your feet a little wider than hips or hips width, toes pointing straight up. If this is not good for your back, you get to just relax in supported bridge pose. Big belly breaths. All right, put your feet on the ground. Knees toward your chest, a little bit of traction with that block underneath your low back. Breathing well. Melt and relax your hips. Let's put the feet down onto the ground, get rid of the block. We're going to do a twist to each side, so hips scoot to the right a few inches, knees come up and drop left. Support any way you need. Turn your head to the right. Melt your body. Inhale, come back to center. Hips scoot to the left, knees drop right, turn your head left. All right. Coming back to center. Now, I would suggest for today to put a bolster underneath your knees for Shavasana, or you can even do what I'm doing and put your calves up on a couch or something, or blankets underneath your knees. Try to soften your psoas muscles. So a little bit less, of passive flexion, help you just melt and relax those muscles. Once you get where you're going to be, If you can, take the heel of your hands and press your femur bones away. Get a little space in there. Breathe deep. And then relax and melt your body into Shavasana. Soften through your skull. Relax. And bring your breath into your body. Melt your limbs. Begin to deepen on breathing. Melt your body again. And eventually finding a little bit of movement. Perhaps you start just turning your head or stretching your arms, maybe your legs. Breathing deep. Eventually coming onto your side. Bringing yourself up to sit. So as you find a seated posture, notice if you're a little bit more comfortable sitting. Psoas is so deeply rooted in challenges with your hip, your side joint, your low back, the pelvic floor, your belly. It affects a lot. So let's be grateful for getting to know this part of our body a little bit more. Open your breath up and offer your intentions for another. So send your love and care to another. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.